o'clock hour, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we'll go ahead and get started. First, hello, and thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome everybody. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. My name is Katie O'Brien, and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at the Admiral at the Lake. And I'm proud to present one of our masterclass senior living series. And thank you for those who have been on previous ones, and we'll continue to hold masterclasses throughout the coming year as well. But thanks for joining us. About the program, our schedule, we plan the presentation to be about a half an hour, and then the second part we will have time for Q&A. But in the meantime, you'll see in the chat section that we invite you to pose through the chat any questions that you would like to have included either during the presentation or following the presentation during the Q&A. We do anticipate today the program lasting about 45 minutes. And as always, the marketing sales team is available anytime following the presentation with any follow-up questions if they aren't covered today. So let's get started. This is one of our very popular presentations on life care, and I think it is in large part due to our magnanimous Dan Churchill. So thanks for joining us today, Dan. Dan is CFO at the Admiral at the Lake, and he was just telling me that he started in June of 2012, which is just a little over 8 years ago. And when he came to the Admiral, the building hadn't even opened yet. It was about 2 or 3 weeks later that residents started to move in. But without his collaborative leadership has been critical for the growth of the Admiral, and I personally love working with Dan, and I want to thank him for all that he has brought to the Admiral. So highlights from Dan's resume include Dan is a CPA and was a senior manager at Frost, Ruttenberg, and Rothblatt, with more than 9 years of experience as a financial statement auditor specializing in audits for not-for-profit organizations. He oversaw the audits for large Chicago-based senior living communities and world-renowned Chicago-based theater and dance organization. Dan received a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Bradley University and is a member of the American Institute of CPAs of the Illinois CPA Society. So Dan, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to your comments, and I'll hand it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Katie, and right back at you. I like working with you too. It's been great since you've joined the team here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you again for inviting me back to speak with you today about life care. There's usually a couple questions that folks ask me when I am first introduced to them in some form or fashion. One of them is, are you related to Winston? Because my last name is Churchill. And for those of you who have been on presentations before that I've had, you know the answer already, but the answer is no. But we do have, from some research that my family has done, it turns out we have a common ancestor. So, I mean, I guess I'll take that as it is. Then the other question that usually comes up is, where'd you get that red hair? Actually, both sides of my family have red hair as the gene. And I think that's the only way someone can have red hair, if I'm not mistaken. It has to run on both sides of the family. In fact, I'm the only person now on both sides of the family who have red hair. So there were a couple of cousins of mine who were born with red hair, but they have since turned to a blonde or a dark brown. But I feel very fortunate in that I've been able to keep my lustrous ginger top here. So I think maybe what we'll do is dive into the presentation and first just talk about, the Admiral at the Lake generally. And the first thing I wanted to mention is that right now we're at 93% occupied in independent living. And independent living itself consists of 196 apartments, and we also offer outpatient rehab. Then on the Harbor's side of the building, these are the higher levels of care. So we have 39 assisted living apartments. We have 17 memory support apartments, 36 skilled nursing apartments, and included in that is the ability for short-term rehab covered under Medicare. So all of our skilled nursing apartments are Medicare certified. A long time ago, I found this quote, and the quote is, "If you have an important point to make, don't try to be subtle or clever, use a pile driver." And then this person then goes on to say, and drive it in and drive it in, or pound it in and pound it in. And I'd be curious if anyone knows who might have said that quote. And since it's a webinar on Zoom, it might be easier, but you may have already figured it out. It was actually my quasi-relative, Winston, who said that quote. The reason I like that quote is because, you know, I'm in finance. I'm not a salesperson, and I don't even pretend to be a salesperson. So I'm not here to sell you on the Admiral at the Lake. What I'm here to do is to help provide you with a framework for making a decision about your future and your future long-term care and your future health needs. And to also point out, you know, how life care can actually save you money over your lifetime at the Admiral at the Lake, generally speaking. So there's a picture of my quasi-relative Winston. I don't know if there's much resemblance there or not, but again, I'll take it. So what is life care? So really what life care provides is the only structure where long-term care and housing services are provided in a way that is predictable. The monthly fee is predictable. You know, it's not actually intended to be a low-cost alternative for anyone. But what's interesting is that because of the way the pricing is and the monthly fee structure is at the Admiral at the Lake, it actually does turn out to save our residents money over their lifetime. And we'll get to that in a minute. So continuing on with what is life care. The Admiral at the Lake is considered to be a type A life care community. And what that means is an upfront fee is required to move in. And that upfront fee is called an entrance fee. That entrance fee payment is not a real estate transaction. So when you pay an entrance fee to move into the Admiral, you don't buy a piece of the Admiral. What that does is it gives you the right to occupy the apartment that you have chosen. And what's interesting about that entrance fee is that entrance fee can be refunded up to 90% upon termination of the contract to your estate, or maybe to your children or another nonprofit organization, or however you choose to have that refund paid out. There are ongoing monthly fees with a life care community like this. And like I mentioned before, when in the future the need for assisted living, memory support, or skilled nursing might come along, those costs are at very reduced cost than what the market rate for those costs are. So again, you pay this upfront entrance fee, which can be refunded at 90% to your estate. You pay this ongoing monthly fee. And then what that entrance fee does is it allows you to take advantage of lower costs for you in assisted living, memory support, and skilled nursing. And like I mentioned before, those costs come at, they are very predictable in the future. You know, I always get this question, what is included in the monthly fee that residents have to pay? And it's a very good question. I'm sure that's something that you all are probably thinking as well. So here at the Admiral, meals are included. There is a continental breakfast and then about one meal a day, maybe even more than that, depending on your choices with our meal program. It includes housekeeping, which happens every other week. A housekeeper will come into the apartment, do all the light housekeeping for you. We have a fitness center that has both equipment, and there's a room for classes that you can use. There is a fitness coordinator who runs classes, and she's very good. I think she's liked by almost all the residents who participate in our fitness programs. We have an indoor pool and classes that come along with that. What's also included is an opportunity to speak with a wellness coordinator and a social worker. So those are available to our residents here. All the utilities are included in the monthly fee. So heat, the air conditioning, water, garbage, electric, all of those things are included in the monthly fee. If there are any repairs that might need to be made to the apartment, or if the refrigerator conks out, or the washer or dryer that are in each apartment, if that should conk out, all of that is included. We will replace those as needed. We do have scheduled trips with our transportation program, and so those are included. We do have well-being checks. We have a meditation room, a library that's run by residents, and we also have a creative arts studio. There are more things that I could list here, but I just want to highlight probably some of the bigger items that most residents utilize, at least currently. But again, there are many more things that are included in the monthly fee, but that kind of gives you sort of an idea of generally what's included with the ongoing monthly fee for a life care community like the Admiral. So why might someone want to have life care? What it does is it provides a plan for your life and thinking about your future needs and your future healthcare needs. And with that, because of the fee structure, it provides some security, both financially and logistically. And logistically meaning, we're all under the same roof. So the higher levels of care of assisted living, memory support, and skilled nursing are all under the same roof in the same building. What it also does is it gives you the priority over others for using those long-term care settings like assisted living, memory support, and skilled nursing. So as a life care resident, you take priority over someone who is not a life care resident or who does not live in independent living for those higher levels of care. And so because of all these things, what it really does is it provides peace of mind for folks. In addition, like I've mentioned before, it does provide predictable and then very reduced fees for long-term care. I'm actually having a little issue with my battery here, so let's see if I can, there we go. Sorry about that. So again, moving to higher levels of care are at substantially reduced costs when you are a life care resident. Then, in addition to all of that, we make a commitment to our life care residents that should they run out of money through no fault of their own, then they still have a home at the Admiral and they will still receive the care that they need, whatever that care might be, and as long as we are able to provide that care. So, I say through no fault of your own. So let's talk about that for a minute. If someone were to gift all of their money away to a long lost relative or maybe children or to a charity, that would, and then become unable to pay the fee at the Admiral, that would not qualify as through no fault of your own. So therefore, the obligation to care for you doesn't exist anymore. But the difference though is if, let's say, the housing market crashes again and your retirement fund goes away as a result, that is through no fault of your own. So if you were to run out of money in that situation, you would still have a home at the Admiral and you would still receive the care that you need. So hopefully that makes sense for folks. Again, as Katie mentioned, please, if you have questions, you can throw them up in the chat box. I've got that box open, and I'll be monitoring that throughout the presentation. So I encourage you to put any questions that you might have in there, and I can try to answer them. I also get this question quite a bit. Why would I join a life care community and become a life care resident when I could just stay at home for free? I think the reality is staying at home isn't free. Most of you probably know that if you are staying in your home. There are things like real estate taxes you have to pay, repairs you have to pay, upkeep, all of the costs that come along with it, including your homeowner's assessments if you have any of those type HOA type fees. So let's think about that for a minute here. And one of the things I always have to say when we look at numbers is there are a lot of different scenarios across all the people on this webinar, both in terms of age and in health condition, so on and so forth. So the numbers that I'm going to show is sort of an on average scenario. So somebody who is 80 years old, moving into the Admiral at the Lake, and then as the higher levels of care are needed with assisted living, memory support, and skilled nursing, those areas are utilized when needed. So follow this example, but remember to take it in the spirit of this is sort of an average, and it may not fit your specific situation exactly. So if we were to assume that all of your income and all of your expenses are equal, except for the cost of healthcare and the cost of long-term care. If you were to stay living in your home, and then when the time comes, you move directly from your home into one of those assisted living facilities or memory support facilities or skilled nursing facilities that have all the amenities and the building like the Admiral, that would cost one person $525,000 over that person's lifetime. Then if there are two people, if it's a couple or it's a sibling, two people, remember 2 people doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be married, but 2 people who live in the same household, that would end up costing 2 people double what it does for one person. So just over $1 million over those 2 people's lifetimes. So what that means then is you would have to find that money from somewhere, because remember, your income and your expenses are always equal. So you would have to pull money out of your investments to pay for this long-term care, or you may need to sell your home to pay for these costs in the future as well. So hopefully that makes sense. So if we were to compare that then to a situation where you would move into a life care community like the Admiral, so you don't stay at home, and when the time comes, move into one of those assisted living communities. Rather, you move into the Admiral at the Lake and you're independent. Then when the time comes and higher levels of care are needed, you would move into those higher levels of care under the same roof. So again, if we were to assume that your income and your expenses are always equal except for the cost of your long-term care, that would cost one person about $426,000 over that person's lifetime. And it would cost 2 people about $600,000 over both of those people's lifetimes. And that's a combined total. It's not $600,000 per person. It's $600,000 for both. So that means you would need to find the money to pay for that. And because your income and expenses are always equal, you would draw down on investments to pay for that. You'd probably sell your home to pay for that. So you can probably already see that there's a big difference between the two. On average, under a life care arrangement here at the Admiral, one person would save about $100,000 over their lifetime. And if there are two people, the savings amount to over $400,000 over their lifetime. So you can really see that because of the monthly fee structure at the Admiral, while typically a life care community is not a low cost alternative, it actually does turn out to be a lower cost alternative with the Admiral, which is great, especially for two people. To save that kind of money is great. So, we mentioned this is a masterclass. I think this is the fourth one. And I think this is actually this is the second one that I've been a part of. And I like that we call it a masterclass series, because if there is something I can give to you as take home for your homework, this would be the slide to do. So this would be comparing your own financial position and comparing on your own without Lifecare versus moving to a life care community like the Admiral with Lifecare. So remember, on your own is just you're staying in your home where you might be right now as long as you can. And then when the time comes, moving into one of those assisted living facilities, memory support facilities, or skilled nursing facilities. So in this case, this is the left-hand side of the screen. I would like you to take your investments, add the sale price of your home, because you're going to need all these things to pay for your long-term care. Then subtract out the cost of long-term care. So if you're one person, subtract out $525,000. And if you are two people, subtract out $1,050,000. Then compare that analysis with the analysis on the right-hand side of the screen. And the right-hand side of the screen is comparing calculating your financial position under a life care arrangement. So it's somewhat similar, but there are a couple of differences. So you would take the value of your investments plus the sale price of your home. Then you'd want to subtract out that entrance fee payment for the apartment, because remember, you're going to have to pay an entrance fee under Lifecare. That's one difference between the two. Then also subtract out your cost of long-term care. So for one person, it's $426,000. For two people, it's $618,000. Then the other difference is, on this case, add back 90% of the entrance fee payment that you paid previously, because remember, 90% of the entrance fee can go back to your estate. So if there's one take-home piece for you all, is to look at this comparison given your investments and maybe the value of your home, and see how it turns out. And I would do this kind of calculation for any life care community. I'm not suggesting that this is just for the Admiral. The thing that you will know, though, is if it's a different community, remember that the cost of long-term care will be different. So that's the one thing you'll have to change if you use this with a different life care community. Okay? I know that was a lot. So, and I also know that money is not the only driver for someone who is making a decision about moving to a life care community. There are a lot of other things to consider, and I tend to think of these as risk management. So when you're on your own and you don't have life care, will you be able to maintain your house? Will you be able to repair it if it needs to be repaired? Will you be able to sell it when you want to sell it? What happens if there's an extended illness? Who's going to be able to care for you? Will you have the wherewithal to find somebody to care for you? Will you be able to manage your investments in cash to make them last? Remember that long-term care, the costs in the market are not predictable. But under a life care community arrangement, those long-term care costs are predictable, much more predictable and at lower costs. So keep that in mind. If you have long-term care insurance, will you be able to use it and use it the way you need it? I didn't mention this yet, but if you have a long-term care insurance policy, that can absolutely be used here at the Admiral at the Lake. If you do not have long-term care insurance, that's okay. That actually, the way the financial structure is for a life care community, it's kind of like an insurance policy because you're going to pay up front this entrance fee, but that affords you lower fees for the higher levels of care in the future. Will you be able to get, kind of where you need to go? If you need to go to the grocery store, if you need to go visit relatives, will you be able to do that? Difficulty in visiting a spouse, maybe, who might be in assisted living or skilled nursing. Here at the Admiral, it's actually just an elevator ride down and an elevator ride back up. So it's actually under the same roof. Lack of access to friends and social isolation. I would say this one actually hits home for me and my family. My grandmother, who was the prom queen of Western Illinois University at one point, she, of course, was a very social person. Her and my grandfather went to cotillion. I think it was almost every Saturday night. So very social people. At one point, my grandma, she broke her hip and she ended up going through rehab and then going home, but became very isolated because she couldn't really go anywhere. She felt like she couldn't go anywhere, which became really detrimental to her own well-being because she was someone who liked being around people and being social. So eventually we were able to find a community for her. And when she did move into that community, it's like she came back to life. Her energy came back. She was, doing all the things that the residents were doing in the community and participating. And she sort of just came back into her own. It was really something pretty cool, actually, to see and to witness. And so this lack of access to friends or feeling like you're socially isolated was a big deal for our family, and it's probably a big deal for most folks. What happens if there's unexpected home costs, or how will you manage your home issues should they come up? Again, at a life plan, a life care community like the Admiral, all those things are done for you. You just have to let us know if something's wrong, and we come and kind of take care of it for you. What happens if you run out of money? You probably have heard stories about these Medicaid facilities out there and what the care is like at them, what the conditions of the buildings are. And I don't know that I would want that for me or my family. But again, under life care at the Admiral, should you run out of money through no fault of your own, you have a place to call home and a place that will care for you. And then what happens if you need care? Who's going to make those decisions on your behalf? Should they be needed to be made on your behalf? At a place like the Admiral, there are a lot of folks involved in the care of residents who will help manage your care if needed and help make decisions for you if needed. But that's all in collaboration with you and with your primary care physician, if it's not our medical director. And so again, being surrounded by folks who will care for you and are experts in the field is something to consider. Again, talking about risk management. Taxes. So let me talk about taxes for a second, because this can really help folks. Actually, the IRS has deemed that a portion of the entrance fee and a portion of the ongoing monthly fees in independent living to be considered prepaid medical expenses. So if you file your taxes and you itemize on Schedule A, you will hear from me directly about the amount that you can deduct on your tax return as a prepaid medical expense. And the year in which you pay your entrance fee is also a year in which that medical expense number is going to be very big from maybe your normal medical expense deduction. So as you are thinking about how you paid for the entrance fee, and if you need to draw down investments that may cause a taxable gain, or if you're selling your home that may cause some additional taxes as a result, just remember that you are also going to be getting this large deduction on your taxes that same year. So again, just to wrap it all up in terms of, what is life care and why might someone want life care, is that it provides a plan for your life. You are really securing yourself both financially and logistically for your future health needs. Um, it provides you with priority access to those long-term higher levels of care. Um, and that would be the same at any life care community. And it provides, because of those three things, it provides us peace of mind. And as I mentioned before, looking at those numbers showing that there's actually savings over your lifetime moving to a place like the Admiral. And it's because of those discounted and predictable monthly fees for those higher levels of care, which you don't find out in the marketplace necessarily. And then again, should you run out of money through no fault of your own, that's really that sense of security that you will still have a home and be cared for in whatever that means for you, as long as we are able to care in that way. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So I know it's actually right about 10:30, which is amazing. Are there any questions? Do people have any questions? One question that I thought of as we were kind of going through this is, does the Admiral pay real estate taxes? And the answer is no. So the Admiral is a nonprofit organization. We are a 501c3 charitable organization. And so because of that, we do not pay real estate taxes, which is great. So therefore, residents, a portion of their monthly fees are not going towards real estate taxes. I see a question about the viability of the Admiral and the plans to keep it viable in the future. That's a great question, especially given times like this where there is a pandemic, and there may be feelings about skilled nursing communities as an example. I think the best indicator, though, for a life care community like the Admiral is, where does occupancy and what has been sit, and where has historically occupancy been? For the Admiral, we have consistently been over 90%, even through this pandemic and independent living. So that's great. So as you are comparing the Admiral against maybe some other life care communities, make sure you're asking about occupancy. How high is it? If you're starting to see numbers that are below 90%, I would question whether or not that is a sustainable organization in the long run. So that's the biggest indicator of the financial viability of a life care community, is where occupancy is. And like I said, the Admiral has been over 90%, and so there's no chance of us doing anything or having a negative, significant financial impact for the Admiral because of that, which is great. Let's see. In what ways can long-term care insurance be used, and under what circumstances? Great question. So this is in some ways dependent upon the policy that you have. Most policies, though, cover care in assisted living, memory support, and skilled nursing. So they usually would cover the room and board and meals. And included in room and board are the CNAs, or we call them care partners here, LPNs or nursing staff that might be part of those higher levels of care. So that's what long-term care would cover. They also sometimes cover in-home healthcare or in-home care. So you'd want to make sure that you look at your policy to be sure you know what it covers. But we have lots of folks here at the Admiral who have long-term care insurance, and when they move to the harbors in assisted living, memory support, skilled nursing, those all have qualified for reimbursement under the long-term care insurance policy. How long a lifetime are you assuming in your calculations? Oh, great question. So in those calculations, I mentioned that we are assuming someone was 80 years old. And under the actuarial analysis that we do, on average, an 80-year-old's life expectancy would be about 13 years. So 13 years, and that would be across any level of care. So moving into independent living and then moving through those higher levels of care when and if needed is on average about 13 years. We have long been generous contributors to charitable causes. If we continue making charitable contributions, does that automatically disqualify us from the financial need through no fault of your own? The answer is no. As long as you are being diligent about your finances and it doesn't end up putting you in a situation where you can't afford to pay the Admiral, that it's fine. Please keep contributing to those charitable organizations. You know, I spent my career working for nonprofits. I have a special place in my heart for nonprofits, and I also donate to many different causes. So I please continue to do that. I wouldn't start doing it more if you think that's going to put you in a situation where you wouldn't be able to pay the fee in the future. That hasn't happened before, and we have lots and lots of residents here who continue to make their charitable donations as they have in the past. So please keep doing that, and that would not put you in a situation that would mean that you don't qualify for care if you run out of money. Okay, we've got lots of questions here. What have been the Admiral's average percentage increase for entrance fees and monthly fees over the year? For entrance fees over the years, the average increase has been 3%. And for monthly fees over the years, the average has been about 3%. There have been some years where it's been higher, and that was early on. Last year, I think it was a little bit lower. So it's been, on average, it's about 3%. And that's typical for a life care community. It'll be interesting to see what the market does in response to the coronavirus, but on average, historically, it's been 3% in the market even. Are there tax benefits? I did talk about that. What is not included in the monthly fee? So what's not included in the monthly fee are, let's see. In independent living, what's not included is like a nursing staff or care partner, so that would not be included. Your own personal groceries, of course, wouldn't be included. Your own medical supplies wouldn't be included, which would be true for any level of care. So if you were in assisted living and you needed incontinence supplies, or you needed some sort of medical supply, a cream or something as an example, that is not covered under the monthly fee. But the CNAs and the nurses and LPNs in the harbors are included in the monthly fee for the harbors. Do I need renter's insurance? Yes, we do recommend that anyone moving into the Admiral does get some renter's insurance to cover their personal belongings, because those are not included with our the Admiral's insurance policies. Let me do a time check here. Okay. What is the average move-in age? Our average move-in age has been right about 78. And now that's an average. So there have been people who have been older than that and people who have been younger than that. But the average has been right around 78. Early on, it was 70. So we actually tend to be a little bit of a younger, more vibrant community here at the Admiral because of that, compared to the market and other communities, which has been interesting too. Why not move straight into assisted living when the time comes? So that was the whole point of the discussion we just had. So moving in while you're still independent, and it sort of feels like your own condo, really an independent living. And then utilizing higher levels of care over your lifetime will end up costing you less than it would if you were to stay at home and move into one of those assisted living facilities somewhere that have sort of the same amenities and the same staffing structure that we at the Admiral have here. Can you talk to the benefits of the different refundability plans? Why do you not offer all plans for all apartments? So good question. So I mentioned before that entrance fee that's paid can be up to 90% refunded to your estate, or however you designate that refund to be paid. We do have different contracts, one which is a 50% refund on that entrance fee amount. Then there's another one that is 0% refunded. Each of those different contracts, because of that different refundability of the entrance fee component, they have different pricing structures. So one of the ways, going back to keeping the Admiral financially viable in the future, is to be sure that any new entrance fee coming in is enough to pay the refund that's due on that apartment. So if someone has a 0% refundable entrance fee, that entrance fee is much lower than it is on a 90% refundable entrance fee. So if someone is living in independent living under a 0% entrance fee, they're not going to get any refund back. That's different than if somebody is living in independent living under the 90% refund entrance fee. That will pay 90% of that out. But I also have to make sure that the new person coming in, that entrance fee is enough to pay that refund out. So because of the different contracts that we have, it just depends on who was in that apartment before and what is needed to keep the Admiral financially viable going forward. Then, is there really a guarantee to take care of me for the rest of my life? How can you guarantee you will have whatever level of care I need? So that's a great question. I mentioned before that as a Lifecare resident, you would have priority access to higher levels of care. And that means assisted living, memory support, or skilled nursing when and if the time comes. And I did mention before that we were also 90% occupied. And so the question is, will there be room for me when I need it? And the answer is yes. We really haven't had a situation where we haven't had room for a resident when the need arises. Let's say someone needs assisted living, but every assisted living apartment is now full. What the Admiral might do in that instance is provide those assisted living services in the independent living apartment until an assisted living apartment becomes available. Or we may do a temporary move to a different level of care before moving to assisted living when an apartment opens. But again, I think it's happened maybe once here at the Admiral. And when that happens, it's our obligation to provide those services at our costs for when that time comes. And is there really a guarantee to take care of me for the rest of my life? Yeah, I mean, as long as you are, you didn't lose your money through no fault of your own, maybe it was because of there was some kind of recession and you lost your retirement because of that, and you can't pay the fee anymore, you still have a home and you will still receive the care that you need here at the Admiral, as long as we are able to provide that care. So yeah, it really is for the rest of your life. Let's see. Does assisted living memory assistance cost more than the monthly fee? Oh, good question. So here at the Admiral, the way the fee structure works is the costs in the harbors, which is assisted living, memory support, and skilled nursing. That fee is a set fee, and we call it the Lifecare rate. And it doesn't matter which of those levels of care you are in, that's the fee. So that's the fee in assisted living. It's the same fee in skilled nursing, even though you are receiving much more care and assistance in skilled nursing. It's the same fee throughout. Now, in independent living, the fee there may be lower than that Lifecare rate, but it also could be higher than the Lifecare rate because that Lifecare rate is actually the average of all the independent living monthly fees. So that's how that Lifecare rate has been determined. And so if you are in an apartment, maybe that's bigger in independent living and you move to the harbors, your monthly fee actually might go down. But maybe if you're in a smaller apartment in independent living and move to the harbors, that fee might go up. But again, that life care rate, that fee that's in the harbors is substantially less than what the market would require if you were to stay at home and then move into assisted living, let's say. What determines the size of the entrance fee? Is age or health a factor? So the entrance fees are preset, and age and health of the person moving into that apartment is not a factor in determining what the entrance fee is. The entrance fees for every apartment are already set, no matter who might move into that apartment. There is an assessment done for every new resident to make sure that they can live independently and to make sure that they can, definitely afford to live at the Admiral. But should those turn out to be fine, that does not play a factor into the set entrance fee. So if someone is older, the entrance fee isn't more. It's also not less. It's preset, if that makes sense. And then, is there parking available for residents? And if so, is there a fee? So yes, we do have a parking garage here at the Admiral, and for our residents, it is $160 a month. It is secure parking, so there are gates that people have to go through in order to reach where the residents park. And the parking also, we do offer parking for our staff too, which is great. So I think that was all of the questions. If anybody has any more, I know you can reach out to the marketing folks with Katie. So I think, Katie, that might be it. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. You covered quite a few questions there at the end. I appreciate you picking those up and covering all those additional questions. Again, thank you so much. It's very beneficial to get your insights on the planning for life and specifically on life care. We hope everybody who attended today has gained some insights to help you with your planning. And again, thanks, Dan. Really great to have you with us today. Thanks. We do plan to have another master class in November. It's scheduled for November 16th. We're going to be sharing our dining and culinary experience with you. We're going to have cooking with Amber. So we hope you can join us as we celebrate the holidays together. So keep an eye out for more information on our next virtual marketing event. To highlight, we currently are offering an end of year incentive program. So if you place a hold on an apartment by the end of the year, you can receive 2 months free and lock in 2020 entrance pricing. And that, depending on the apartment and the individual circumstances, that can be a savings of up to $60,000. So we have available resident information, and our savings program information is listed on our website, as well as, please feel free to reach out to me or any of my team members. We're happy to answer any questions, give you a tour, or follow up with any information you're looking for. So thank you very much, and have a great day, everybody.